Okay, so I've shown you how to create a little kind of spherical form, and now I want to show you how you can create more of a cylinder. And this isn't a strict cylinder because, as you can see, it kind of tapers in. You can make a cylinder that's obviously just goes straight up as well. These two, the leg and the arm, are also little cylinders. The arm is more of a true cylinder, and the leg is kind of like this body shape where it tapers in a little bit. And you just create the tapering in through decreases. Slip stitch, pull it tight, chain 2, insert the hook into the second chain from the hook, yarn over, pull a loop through, make a single crochet stitch and continue. We're going to make 6 single crochets in this single stitch, and that will be our first round. If you lose track, you can turn your work to the front, count the stitches. This is 1 stitch. You can see the little loop, looks like a braid. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 2 more stitches. And if your loop starts getting really loose, you can just pull this tail, the short tail, and that will tighten it. So there's 5, and there's 6. I'm going to pull that tight again. Now, as I said in the video on crocheting a sphere, rather than doing the join, the slip stitch join and then chaining 1, I'm going to crochet in a spiral. And in order to make this crochet come out flat, which I want to have 1 more row coming out, I'm going to crochet increases in every single stitch. The second round, when you're crocheting anything that needs to extend out flat, will have twice the number of original stitches. Okay, so I started out with 6. By crocheting increases in every single one of these stitches, I'm going to end up with 12 stitches. If you lose track of your increases, kind of pull the fabric apart and you'll see 4 vertical loops coming into a single opening. Okay, so that means that that's an increase. Okay, so once you have crocheted increases all the way around, you can either extend this further out if you want a larger base for a cylinder, or you can actually begin coming up on the sides. And to come up, you simply create a single crochet in each of the stitches that you have just finished. And if you turn your work so that you see the edge, you'll just create a single crochet in each of these little braid-like sections, which are your single crochet stitches, the very tops of them. If you crochet through both loops, you'll create a more kind of organic curve and change from the base to the sides. If you want a more distinct edge, then you just crochet into the back loop, which will create a little line. So we're just going to crochet in the back loop of each of these stitches. And that'll create a nice little border. But as I said, if you want a more organic transition, like if you're going to create a little body, then you'll just crochet through both loops. And you'll simply continue single crocheting in every single loop for as long as you want, or as tall as you want your cylinder to be. But after this first round, you don't need to keep crocheting through just the back loop. You will start crocheting through both loops after you have finished the first round. Okay, so we can actually see this little row. This it's like a little line of stitches. So we've come all the way around. I'll zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. You see this little line, the front loops of that that last row of single crochet made. So now we can start crocheting through both loops. And we'll continue to build the walls for as tall as we want this little form to be. Okay, so when you've built the walls up as far as you want to go, you have a couple of choices. You know, you can, if you're making like a little miniature basket, you can leave it and just finish it off by completing a slip stitch, which is yarn over, pull through, and then pull through again, and then one more chain, pull that through, cut this yarn, and then pull it tight, and then you can weave in that end. If you want to begin closing this top off, you can, you know, if you want another border to make it a little bit more defined, then you can begin doing decreases, but only in the back loops. If you want to create more of a sloping, gradual type of decrease, and actually have it be part of the form, which is what I did with this little body, then you just do decreases through both loops. Okay? For the purposes of our video, since I've already shown you how to decrease and start pulling in on the sphere, I'm going to go ahead and finish this off with just a slip stitch, a chain, and then pull the main yarn through, and then tighten this by pulling the short. Okay, so that's our little basket. If you stuff this with polyfill, you know, like if you are closing this off, you're going to create more of a curved base, even though you have created this little defining line. So if you want this to kind of retain its cylindrical form, you want to trace the base onto a, you know, piece of either kind of stiff paper or cardboard. Okay, and it's okay if it's not a perfect circle, but it needs to fit into the base of your crocheted form. And if you have stiff enough cardboard, then you can fill this with polyfill and begin closing it off. Although before you do that, if you want the top to also be defined like this, then you would have to lay a second disc of cardboard on top of the polyfill and then begin decreasing. That would work for, like, if you wanted to create like a little robot or something else that requires kind of more definition. And then to weave in the ends, go ahead and take this out for now. To weave in the ends, it's handy to turn this inside out, and then you take your crochet hook and you just pull it through some loops. It's best, I've found, to try to go through like the back loops and then put the tail of the yarn over and then kind of pull it through. It's handy if you kind of double back. That kind of creates a little bit more sturdiness to your weaving in that end. So you go one direction and then you double back, and that will kind of keep it from pulling out. There. Okay, and then you trim the end short. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing with this tail on the top. Because I'm using kind of a variegated yarn, I'm going to try to keep this part of the tail connected with the yarn that's the same color, because that'll hide it a little bit better. Okay, now we could leave it like this and have it be just a little open basket. I think that I'll make a little slip stitch handle though. To do that, make a slip stitch, pull it tight, yarn over, make a chain, continue to make a chain as long as you want your handle to be. Obviously it needs to be a little longer than this, so I'll continue. Okay, so that looks about right. So I'm going to do one more chain. Now when you have a chain, you want to kind of stretch it out and make sure that you don't twist it as you stitch back into it. To do our slip stitch, we're going to go into the second chain from the hook. So not this one that the last stitch is coming from, but the one right before that. Yarn over and pull through both loops. The very next stitch, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again. Continue all the way to the end, making sure to keep the chain from twisting. Keep it flat so that the little braid is in the front. Okay, now while I didn't do any single crochets, this stitch is really loose, so I'm actually going to pull this out to the previous stitch. To do that, to fix that, you want to make sure that this loop on your hook is tight enough. Okay, so this is going to be my last slip stitch. And now I'm going to do one last chain, cut that loop, pull the main strand out, and then pull that tail to tighten it. I'll pull the other tail to tighten it. Slip stitch has a natural curve to it, which is kind of nice. Then I'll go ahead and attach this to the little basket. I could also spray this with spray starch. That would help it to retain its shape as well. To attach, go ahead and pull one tail through, the other tail through, then I'll cross them, tie a little square knot. Then to attach it to the other side, I'll have to get an extra strand, pull it through a couple of the end loops, hold on to one of the tails, or one of the ends, and then pull the other end through, like so. And then I'll approach it the exact same way as the other one, making sure that the handle goes across the basket, and attach it in the same way.